Right, so originally I had a skit planned for this segment, but Avengers recently became the #1 highest grossing film in the world. I guess that's supposed to make me feel good, especially after the subpar re-released goods that they promised. But at least I got a poster out of it that totally isn't being sold online. Hey there, it's Blazer, and today we're going to be reviewing Spider-Man Far From Home, the second installment of the third reboot within the Spider-Man saga, directed by the one and only Jon Watts. Now let me know if this is true, but apparently on Instagram, which you can now follow me on, is that there are at least 9 potential solos with Tom Holland as our Spider-Man in the works. Look, as a fellow kindred soul who's into having a relatable teen character as representation, that's a lot of Spider-Man. I don't know about you, but I personally don't need to see Spider-Man follow my lifespan till we're both back to crapping in our diapers. But the last time I talked Spider-Man is when they had this cool poster, and I gave a generalized plot based off the trailer and some theories that kind of came true. But if you want to play catch up, I'll give you the rundown. Peter goes on a vacation with a couple of his classmates to basically have some sort of semblance of a normal life, hang out with friends, and maybe even kiss a girl while he's at it. But Fury straight up tells Peter, like, nah kid, no, you got responsibilities. And in comes Mysterio to help lighten the load and become some sort of mentor to Peter in these dark times, and also kick some elemental butt while they're at it. Now Mysterio's, aka Quentin Beck's backstory, is basically he used to live on this different Earth, and the Fire Nation attacked, and people died, some multiverse nonsense, and now he's here to help us. So we got the water, the fire, the earth, and the air nations coming at the earth from all different angles. And all I can say really is global warming is a vixen. You know, just typical end of the world superhero stuff. But definitely not up to code for a neighborhood Spider-Man. I mean, the entire time Peter's trying to put away the Hispanics and web shooters for a moment of being an average kid, which in a way is the inversion of Homecoming, and I can appreciate it more in this film. With an event like Endgame, it makes sense for Peter to come out more matured, scarred, and emotionally damaged, but mature! And it brings out a certain emotional rawness within Peter, the grief, the misery, ultimately self-doubt. Because in the beginning you can see that Peter wants nothing more than to be the hero and for someone to give him the chance to be in the spotlight. And after Endgame, Peter realizes that it's not all fun and swinging. People die all the time trying to be the hero. And since Tony died, everyone's looking to him with questions that Peter himself can't answer nor escape. The question of who will be the new Iron Man constantly hangs over his head, and there are a lot of parallels throughout this film that stimulates things in reality. We as the audience are also curious as to who will be the new Iron Man in this generation of Phase 4. That's a lot for a person who's used to saving cats from trees and stopping car thieves. She says, as Peter's been in a freaking battlefield that looks like the storming in Area 51. But you're probably wondering, aren't there heroes that are actually more qualified in dealing with this end of the world situation? I mean, we did gain back the heroes who were dusted in the events of Infinity War, but they're not exactly the same as they used to be, or they're too busy worrying about their own TV shows. Okay, listen to me, Feige. Alright, you and me, buddy. Alright, you wouldn't like me when I'm angry. My dude, it's been 12 years since the first Hulk movie. You got Hawkeye, who's done the bare minimum till Endgame, which the only respect that I've garnered for Hawkeye and it essentially came from Endgame. You're gonna not give me a Hulk TV series or a movie? Like, Marvel, get it together. I mean, in a way, the vacation takes Peter away from the responsibility, the questions, the hurt, and the power of being a hero. But in doing that, you have this downright weird pacing throughout the film, and especially in the first half. It starts out slow, and then you're hit with a whole bunch of awkward teens doing painfully awkward things, but you can still have those moments without totally saturating the film in that. And as a result, once you get to the first fight scene, it comes completely out of nowhere, and suddenly you remember that it's a superhero film and not a teen romance comedy. I'm not saying that you can't have the two, but if one genre wasn't trying to choke the life out of the other one, I'd probably enjoy it a lot more. You'd have a better experience and they'd both balance out. Out of every character, Quentin seems to be the only one that's really there for Peter in the dark times, but as it turns out, it's just an illusion. Turns out Quentin Beck wanted to be sporting the same Google glasses as Tony and apparently has the power to destroy an entire country. Quite the brilliance on Stark's part, you know, handing the world's most militant force to a hormonal and naive 16-year-old, which it was no secret that Mysterio would have been the villain, but the execution of the reveal was well done. A theme that the editors also seem to replicate within the trailers by only showing the hero aspect of Mysterio. I guess the people see what he wants them to see. Another thing I want to mention is while Peter and Mysterio are both sitting at the bar having a drink after a victorious battle, They both don't have their masks on. Immediately, I was like, okay, either the directors are high out of their minds or crap is about to go down. And as soon as Peter leaves, we find out that the bar is also one of Beck's illusions. I mean, it doesn't make it okay, but it's just a cool diversion, okay? I mean, clearly someone's been watching A-Team. Then Beck starts boasting about what happened about 10 seconds ago. You can see Jake's having a lot of fun with this character. He's practically Jake Paul, and he's handing out pop tags to those who've helped him and also been featured in older Marvel films. I mean, grant the whole scene with Quentin Beck in the bar with Peter was great, but then after that, he was like, okay, great, now let me stroke my ego for the next 3 minutes. Drinks all around, which in this instance, I think is the only time that it's somewhat passable for you to be vomiting exposition. You know, you're handing out credits to the people who've helped you. I mean, I still felt that the antagonist turned into some age-old Bond villain or some anime cartoon villain. I mean, to be fair, this is Tony Stark that we're talking about, okay? The man had little trust for everyone that was around him and practically gave Peter a whole arsenal. And Quentin Beck basically Hugh Jacked him. At this point, it's the equivalent to stealing juice pops from Morgan Stark. Remember when I said that it looked like Jake Gyllenhaal just showed up on set in a pair of t-shirts and jeans? I mean, yeah, they practically shot the set that they were using for the film and basically had the actors do their own thing. Which turns out behind Mysterio's mystique is that he uses studio production logistics in order to fool everyone around them. Another parallel that I thought was pretty well thought out, especially for someone like me doing what I do here on YouTube and also just general curiosity. I always wonder how much production goes behind creating a story, or in this case, an illusion. But instead of basing the world directors built off of generalized movie logic, this movie actually justifies it, and I can finally go, that makes sense. And that awesome suit that weirdly resembles Thor, it's not even real. Behind all that, he's just a regular blue-collar dude tired of being in the shadow of better men. In a mocap suit. I guess that's what makes a villain nowadays, and I'm enjoying it. It's really interesting to see that the screenwriters are really willing to take that approach and making a new sort of villain, instead of just having a random billionaire wake up one day, realize that he's got no coffee, and decides to go on a murderous rampage. And to be honest, it reminded me a lot of Baron Zemo and even Sandman from previous films. Like Baron, Quentin doesn't exactly use physical tactics because he knows he wouldn't stand a chance, so he preys on Peter's mental vulnerabilities in order to save face. And at one point, Peter realizes that this whole Mysterio concept is just a gimmick, and he gets caught in Mysterio's illusions, and it's as trippy as a Doctor Strange sequence. It's what I imagine a bad acid trip would be like, and as I expected, the cinematography and graphics were absolutely stunning. But that whole Scarecrow sequence was like dark, like pure nightmare fuel. Like I would rather pee myself than for my toe to even grace the floor in order to go to the bathroom. Nightmare fuel. But then the illusions stop, Mysterio comes out, just hanging out in that mocap suit. Fury shoots him in the gut, asked him who else knows about this whole gimmick behind Mysterio. And Peter tells him, and then it was like, oh, psych, ha, Mysterio. I'm gonna go kill your friends now, bye. In the next cut, not even 2 seconds after the exchange, Peter gets mowed down by a freaking train to the Netherlands. Which begs the question, is Spidey senses like the occasional thing that comes out when it's feeling generous? So you can stop a bullet from obliterating my skull, but if I'm in the tracks of a fast-moving train, I'm basically screwed? And are Spidey senses being retconned for Peter tingles? These are real questions, people. Another quality that I liked about the film is that yes, you get these CGI fight scenes that you want, but in a fight against your senses, knowing what you know versus what you see, Peter has to do the occasional critical thinking against someone who uses his mental vulnerabilities against him. But the movie ends as most movies do. Peter beats up the bad guy with some potentially scarring trust issues afterward that'll probably never heal, but at least he gets to the girl. So, surprise, turns out Mysterio isn't exactly done with Peter, even though he's dead, which no body, no crime when it comes to the MCU. And it really doesn't matter at this point whether or not he's dead or alive, because he has one final trick up his sleeve for little Pete. Hey, you know that event in London? Yeah, he did it. Oh, by the way, his name's Peter Parker. Here's his list and address. But before Mysterio completely doxed Peter, was there really any reason why he should keep his identity in the first place? Clearly, he's fine with just taking his mask off in the most open scene full of witnesses. I mean, it's not exactly the Civil War comics where he's the first one to reveal his identity and his integrity is initially questioned. An entire underground government agency's secrets were leaked, and the only thing bad that came of that was that Hawkeye didn't get a hot toy. And if anything, at the end of the day, Peter would probably get his own popsicle and they'd call it a day. But then J. Jonah Jameson comes on the Daily Bugle's news, and probably the best part of the movie by far, it made me forget everything that happened within the first half. In this movie, similar to Captain Marvel, I'm, if you will, conflicted. This film seems like it's spreading itself way too thin by trying to tackle as many things as possible, by also ending phase 3 and entering into phase 4. But firstly, Endgame already did that. The characters of phase 3 moved on, or to put it abruptly, died. So for me, this film weirdly feels like after I've been beaten bloody, and then the nurse just decides like, a band-aid's good enough. But along the spectrum, it's sort of a mess. Second, my little squabble, quarrel, beef, if you will, is that they tried to establish things for future films, such as a romantic interest. MJ is who I'm referring to, the romantic interest. I don't know how I feel about the relationship. I'm on board as much as I possibly can be, but it just feels like they had to jump from here to here to, oh, okay, they're dating now. Alright, which you gotta give me some credit, okay? I'm on board with awkward teen, you know, relatable whatever nonsense affairs, if you will, with the romantic counterpart. I mean, they can almost get away with it. I would love to feel more secure with their relationship, but with everything that's going on now, I honestly, I don't know. Now, I spoke about this in one of my previous videos and even earlier in this one. Though I am part of the people that don't really like this Iron Man Jr. aspect, I knew that they were trying to evolve the character in some fashion, and I was willing to accept the change despite childhood memories. As opposed to Homecoming, where it was mainly built off of a mentor and pupil relationship where the pupil had his own traits and things that set him apart from his mentor, this film oddly feels like they're trying to revive Iron Man and put him into another vessel, which for people like me feels wrong. You have this relatable teen character that you're trying to build, and then you give him $1 billion worth of technologies and suddenly he sets him apart from the audience that he represents. I can see why that a lot of people are angry because of this. You have this beloved personality through comics and digital media, but now it feels more of a replacement for what you lost rather than a deserved role. Best example of this is where Peter is making his new suit, and apparently Tom Holland studied the first Iron Man movie where Tony was making his first suit just for that scene. And the parallels. It could not be any more symbolic. So as a result, I thought this was a pretty solid sequel for the Spider-Man saga. The second half is really what stuck with me. It made me forgive anything that happened in the first half. It keeps the fun consistency with its predecessor, but also has some emotional rawness to it, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Guys, in the end, I see myself watching this on the weekends and having a fun-tastic time. But what did you guys think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Comment down below along with your theories and inquiries, and I'll answer those too. Follow me on the links down below. But anyway, I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Bye-bye.